Nigeria, let's move on to that market. It was, of course, up on Friday about 0.2%, extending the year-to-date change to 19.5%. We have in the studio right now to give us some perspective on that market. Muktar Mohammed is an analyst at Assar Investments. Muktar, it's always good to have you in the show. And quite a few things to recap over the last quarter in Nigeria. Of course, there's all talk about market making, the issuers portal at the NSE. So a few positive things. And I think moving on to the next quarter, I think the first big news will be the announcement around the price bands for companies as the NSE looks to expand its market-making program, adding what they're calling a supplementary program to that. Your thoughts on how this market is like to kick off this quarter?
Well, we expect the market to kick off positively. You should still be aware that the result hasn't come in yet, though most of the shares that the result must have been factored into some of the share price at the moment. But if there's any surprise, then the price will go up. Then again, looking at the supplementary market makers coming into the market, it will boost liquidity. And you know that these supplementary market makers are not like the first market makers that are restricted to some particular equities. These are all allowed to trade on any equity they decide to. And again, the margin of movement up and down on all equity from today will be 10% up, 10% down. So what the exchange is trying to do is trying to boost liquidity in the market, knowing fully well that the investment climate is very positive. The only thing that can bring it down is liquidity. And they want the stocks, some of the stocks are still undervalued, so that they can be rightly priced for most investors. And the good news is that now we're beginning to get a little bit of a reduction in the foreign investors holding portfolio in the market.
Right. I thought that was an interesting data point for the first quarter. The fact that I think at some point in February, the locals were actually dominating the market, which I thought was quite interesting. That's a reversal, like a 2-year trend reversal.
Reversal, because now what we're seeing is that the exchange have succeeded in bringing investors' confidence back to the market. And the stockbrokers too are doing a lot of enlightenment behind the scene to help in boosting. And when you see people say, look, this equity was selling at this price at the beginning of this year, at this price. So investors are beginning to say, so there is opportunity when the market is down, not only when the market is up. So people are beginning to say, come, let's go back to the market. And not to forget that the pension fund administrators are actually coming into the market also. All this is helping in the confidence boosting, and the exchange are beginning to do zero tolerance for corporate governance, which is making it that you must release your result on time, and if you're not releasing your result, there's a penalty attached to it.
Well, I will agree to some extent with respect to people coming back to the market. I've still spoke to a few investors who have been in the market for well over a decade, still saying that they are not interested for now. I think it will still take a while. Clearly, investor confidence is improving, but it will still take a while for everybody to get on board. But let's talk about results. Clearly, a few surprises over the last few weeks with respect to the cement companies, a mixed picture there with CCNN and Lafarge Wapco. But of course, the big focus this quarter will be the banks. I want to get your thoughts about that. We'll continue to hear about delays with respect to the authorities scrutinizing those numbers. Your thoughts about if, for instance, we do not see those results released for the next week or so, what impact will this have on the market?
Definitely, it's already having impact on the market already because the results didn't come on time. Knowing fully well that a bank like GTB always bring out the result by February, the end of February. Now we are in April and we've not seen that result yet. So investors are apprehensive about what is happening. Is it that CBN is trying to over-regulate them?
Well, of course, it's not just the CBN. There's the Financial Reporting Council, quite a few authorities this time around
coming into it. So people are beginning to be apprehensive. But I believe when 1 or 2 results comes in, then maybe people, but for the result that have come in, are not really surprising to investors. Most when you talk about the cement company, when you look at, most times they've been talking about investment that they are putting in for future growth, so it's not too surprising. But it will be surprising if any of this bank comes out with any negative result. It's going to affect the entire market.
Okay, so your best picks in starting the quarter today, market was up about 20%, led to a large extent by the consumer companies, some of the likes of Nestle, Guinness, did quite well in the first quarter. Your thoughts about where the action will be in the second quarter?
I think the action in the second quarter, we still don't take our eyes off the cement companies. They may bring in some good earnings for the first quarter result, knowing fully well that most of what is affecting their investment now has to do with some of investment they have done into their companies. So we begin to see those results begin to turn in, maybe those begin to show in their first quarter result. Then we still expect the banking sector, knowing fully well that after they have most have brought out their end of year result, we still expect them to come up with their first quarter result, which people are already saying it could be more better than what they had last year. So when you look at all this, you could say that this second quarter of the year is going to be a good year, but all has to depend on the results and what investors' perception of these results are. You know, it has to do with the perception of an investors about the result. So it's not all about how the result good is going, but how the investors perceive this result to be.
Okay, final point. Later on today, we'll be looking at a business confidence index released by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And your thoughts about the confidence level when we look at the economy right now. How do you think investors are reading that, especially equity investors now?
Well, the confidence, like you rightly pointed out, the confidence level is some are there saying, look, we can come in now. We have confidence. Some are saying, look, let me sit down and watch what happened before I begin. So the confidence level is mixed in the equity market because people have still not begin to see those continuous rise that they used to see for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. People are beginning to see rise of maybe 2 weeks, then you see the market slow down. So investors in Nigeria are not used to such things. So the confidence is still coming in, but I think it's 50-50.